for our grandchildren, and for the future of America. This is really big, big stuff in the sense of determining the role of government in our lives. And what I have to say, and I say this with great sadness, at this moment at least, and we have got to turn this around in the next few weeks, at this moment at least, it is very clear that despite a Democratic president, despite a Democratic Senate, the Republicans are winning a massive victory, have moved the whole discussion very, very far to the right. People will have seen in their newspapers today the president negotiating an agreement with Boehner. The details of that agreement are not clear. I don't know any more than I've read in the newspaper. I am more familiar with the so-called Gang of Six proposal, which popped up the other day. Again, without having seen all of the details, the Gang of Six proposal is a disaster. The agreement that the president is negotiating with the Republicans is probably worse than that. So we have got to do everything that we can within the next few weeks. If we are serious about protecting the middle class of this country, working families, the elderly, the sick, maybe most importantly our children, we have got to become very, very aggressive and turn this debate around. What is at stake right now is that the Republicans have brought into this deficit reduction debate. And let's remember what caused the deficit that we're in, which is primarily 2 wars unpaid for, huge tax breaks, much of it going to the wealthy, a Medicare Part D prescription drug program produced by George W. Bush, unpaid for, Wall Street bailout, and a recession, a terrible recession that we're experiencing right now, which has resulted in a significant drop in revenue. That's the cause of the deficit crisis. The solution is not to slash Social Security and veterans benefits. The solution is not to make drastic cuts in Medicare, Medicaid, education, nutrition, affordable housing, the environment, and every other program relevant to working people, while at the same time, perhaps, and we haven't seen any definitive plan yet, literally lowering taxes for the wealthiest people in this country and ignoring some of the great tax loopholes that enable corporations to make billions of dollars in profit and pay nothing in taxes. That's where we are right now. And it is very clear to me that the American people have got to get engaged in this debate in a very significant way. Tell both Republicans and Democrats, and maybe most importantly, the president, that he is not going to balance the budget on the backs of people who are already hurting. Real unemployment in this country is over 16%. Median family income in the last 10 years has gone down. Millions of Americans today are working at jobs that pay them less than they used to have. We have the highest rate of childhood poverty in the industrialized world. 50 million people have no health insurance. Those are not the people that you do deficit reduction on when the richest people are becoming richer and their effective tax rate at 18% is the lowest in modern history, and when corporations make billions and pay nothing in taxes, and when we have tripled military spending since 1997, those are the areas that you got to look at for deficit reduction, not ordinary people or the elderly or the sick.
Do you think that if John McCain had been elected president, that the president of the United States right now would be negotiating away, possibly negotiating away Social Security? We don't know for sure, but these are the reports that we're hearing.
Well, what we have heard is that despite the fact, and here's what's interesting, when Barack Obama ran for president, and I have the quote buried here someplace, but he was very clear. He said, John McCain wants to cut your Social Security. I will not do that. I will not do that. That was Barack Obama. Now it is clear he is talking, whether it's in this plan or not, he is talking about the so-called, and where they came up with this term, I have no idea. It's called the chained CPI. Don't ask me what that means.
Right. Chained to a weight and that's thrown into the sea, I think.
Something like that. But I want people to know So to answer your question, I think that's a very interesting question, and I want people to think about that. If there were a Democratic Senate, and I'm going to do everything I can to rally the Senate against these proposals, but if John McCain came forward with a proposal and said, let's see, $3 trillion in cuts, and my friends, I know that is a lot of money that will impact tens of millions of people, and we're going to cut Social Security. Now, what does this chain CPI mean? This is what it means. Tom, you have heard me say on this show over the years that I believe that the COLA, the cost of living adjustment for seniors and veterans, is inadequate today, not fair to them, because it does not take into effect the reality that seniors spend a lot more money than the general population on prescription drugs and health care. That's what happens when you get old. You're not buying flat screen TVs or laptop computers. Those may have gone down, but health care costs have gone up. So I think that today's COLA, which, by the way, has not been raised in the last 2 years, underestimates the spending needs of seniors.
Right.
What the chained CPI does is it, for seniors, significantly lowers the formula, readjusts the formula to make it harder for them to get COLA increases. What studies have shown, and I think there's no debate upon this, if the CPI, if the chain CPI were to go into effect, if you're 65 years old today and it goes into effect tomorrow, in 10 years when you're 75, you're going to get $560 a year less than you otherwise would have gotten. And when you're 85 years of age, 20 years from today, that will be $1,000 a year. Now just think about the morality of balancing the budget in 20 years on an 85-year-old person who is so vulnerable, who is so dependent on health care and medicine. Those are the people who will get $1,000 a year less. But meanwhile, I have every reason to believe that if you are a large corporation, you'll continue to enjoy all kinds of loopholes. And if you're a wealthy person, your tax rates may even go down.